This is the first episode of Q&A Thursdays for the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast. In this episode, we're going to go through a couple of answers from a couple of questions from the men around our social media, specifically our Instagram page, and one of them you might just feel hits a little bit close to home as well. So let's get into it and dive in. Welcome to the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast, a place where men just like you learn to raise your standards everywhere. Welcome to the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast. I'm Dave, and in this episode, like I said, this is all about Q&A Thursdays. So like I said, submit them via our Instagram. I'm going to put it up every single Tuesday, so jump in, put your questions in, and we're going to be able to answer it here on the podcast. We've got a couple to get through today, maybe 3 or 4. I want to make sure that our answers are short, sharp, and sweet, and then as practical and pragmatic as possible, because when it comes to raising your standards everywhere, you need to be able to implement action immediately. So without any ado, let's get straight into it. I'm going to chuck my glasses on because I can't see for a damn. Okay, what are your 3 best qualities to be a man, or one step further, just be a good person? 3 best qualities. Okay, so 3 qualities that I hold myself by is authenticity, transparency, and vulnerability. Those 3 things there allow me to be the highest version of myself at all times. I'm not having to worry about carrying any lies or carrying a facade or putting on a mask or anything like that, because if I show up with transparency, vulnerability, and authenticity, I can't not be truthful. I can't not act in truth. I can't not speak truth. I have to be the highest version of me at all times. That is one thing that I feel like, not only to be a good man, but just to be a good person in this day and age. There is so much lies and deceit and bullshit out there, especially look at mainstream media, look at the fitness industry, just look at how much, look at big corporations. Everything is so corrupt, corruption everywhere. Everything is in bed with one another. Everything has an agenda. It's a shadow of what it actually is. And so the big thing that I feel as a human being, to be an authentic human being, an embodied human being, transparency, vulnerability, and authenticity. You can't go wrong with those 3. So if there's anything that you want to take out of this point here, this quick answer is embody those 3, live with truth, act in truth, only speak truth. Be as integral as possible to those 3 values, and you can't go wrong. Okay, this one's a bit of a decent one. Who would win a fight, a silverback gorilla or a grizzly bear? So this one here, I assume, comes from the Lex Fridman podcast with John Danaher, where John goes in depth into why a grizzly bear would fuck up a gorilla. And I have to agree. A grizzly bear is a killing machine. A gorilla is, they're big and powerful and all these sorts of things. And, they should be able to pick up a fucking 900-pound deadlift with no worries, all these sorts of things. But they don't. They only fight when it comes to their hierarchy inside of their troop, if there's another troop around, and if the male silverback gorilla has to keep the troop safe. A grizzly will fuck your shit up for whatever reason it wants. Maybe it's hungry. Maybe it's pissed off. Maybe you startled it. Maybe it's got its cubs nearby. A grizzly bear will dominate majority of anything, regardless of if it's a monkey or a chimp or, anything like that. A grizzly bear, realistically, a grizzly bear's head is this big. A grizzly bear will fuck up everything. And that's where I'll leave it. If you want to hear a more nuanced version of this, go over to the Lex Fridman podcast with John Danaher. He is a bodybuilding. He is a jiu-jitsu absolute genius. He's a combat sports genius, and he's also a ex-professor of philosophy. So he breaks down striking arts, grappling arts into the philosophical presuppositions that underpin everything. So go jump into that one there. I'll actually link it down below. And another one, how do I get motivated? How do I get motivated to train when I'm so damn tired from work? I'm going to say this as blunt as possible. Fuck motivation and fuck your feelings when it comes to going to the gym. Unless you are injured, unless there is chaos and calamity in your family, unless there are other circumstances stopping you from going to the gym, being tired, being unmotivated, and not feeling like you want to go to the gym does not matter. You go to the gym because you know it's the right thing to do, because you want to be around so that you have strength, mobility, athleticism, all the way up into your 80s and 90s. Look at the current generation that's getting old now. Look at these guys and how frail they are. We've got 50 to 60 years until we get there. Right now, I'm 33, turning 34 next month. If I don't do everything that I need to do right now, because I have a long-term vision of the future, like I've said on the podcast a couple of times, my goal is to be 110 years old and be happy, healthy, strong, mobile, there cognitively as well, and make sure I can be there for, to see 5 generations below me. Like, that's my big vision of the future. I want a giant family where everyone can come back home. Everyone has the compass to navigate back home, and they can feel safe, they can be appreciated, they can be nurtured, they can learn from the family. That's my big vision of the future. Now, I can't do that if I don't go to the gym. I can't do that if I don't go to jiu-jitsu. I can't do those things if I don't take care of my body right now. So maybe you're young, maybe you're, early 20s and you're exhausted from going to work and, you do big shifts. However, it doesn't matter. You still need to get the work done. You also need to worry about your sleep. You also need to worry about your social circles. That's why being alive and going to the gym, being healthy and all these sorts of things is challenging. You can't do it all. You have to figure out what means a priority, what has high value to you. If you don't figure out what your values are, you're not going to go to the gym. You're not going to prioritize it. The things that are inside of your values, your unconscious values, specifically the top 3 values, you will put time, effort, and energy and money towards unconsciously, without effort. It just happens automatically. However, if you want to change your unconscious values, you need to start putting actual discipline and force and persistence into that thing. So if gym matters to you and you want to get big, strong and look good naked and be able to do all the things with that athletic body, yeah, put some time, effort and energy into that fucking thing. If not, you won't do it. And that's where we're going to leave that one. Okay. So now we got a bit of a heavy one. Okay. How do you get over the shame of talking about your issues, emotions, and just letting them out instead of holding them back? Little context, I bottle all of mine. I don't talk about them because I don't want to relive those memories. And for those listening to the audio, relive is in brackets. I'm ashamed when I talk about this. I get the sudden urge to burst out crying. I don't talk to anyone about my past. I don't like anyone knowing about my past unless I trust them enough to tell them, which is extremely rare. Not many people past my family know about anything of my past. Start off, brother, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your vulnerability to be able to share this. This message here is going to help so many men, including yourself, and just hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions at scale. This message here, so many men need to hear. I used to hate opening up. Right now, like I said at the start of this podcast regarding the 3 big values that I would hold myself by: transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability, those were learned. I used to be a clamshell. Nothing could get into that. When it came to how I present myself now, is because I've learnt through sharing, through providing my perspective on things and having communication and community, I no longer have to carry my burdens. They all of a sudden allowed me to have space where I can feel heard, where I can let things out. There's a great saying that I like, and I'm not sure where I got it from, but repression is best cured by expression. When we hold things inside, and the reason why you might feel shame or want to burst out crying and stuff like that when it comes to sharing these things is because it carries so much emotional charge over it. I've got a couple of clients at the moment that I'm working with that have PTSD. One of them is ex-military and another one had some traumatic events happen to him while he was a teenager. The symptoms that they show when it comes to presenting vulnerability and transparency, when it comes to talking about issues like this, is immediate tears. Immediately they feel afraid, and then there's anger that comes over the top of it because they don't want to feel these feelings. One of the best ways for you to be able to cure the repression via expression is to voluntarily step into the darkness. I talk about this all the time. When it comes to, there's a great quote actually from Carl Jung, and it says, "No tree, it is said, can reach to heaven if its roots don't reach to hell." That's what this tattoo on my arm symbolizes. That's what I do whenever it comes to coaching. I want to help my men shine the light into their darkness, shine the light into their darkness voluntarily, have all the resources that they absolutely need to be able to go in and voluntarily look at that. It's called exposure therapy. When you go through and you voluntarily expose yourself small steps at a time, eventually you can overcome whatever it is that you don't want to feel, that you have repressed. And this isn't specific to you. Everyone does this. I did this. So go back to episode 2 of the podcast where I talk about my story and, upbringing with violence around me, seeing my drunk uncle slapping my cousin around on New Year's Day, seeing violence around me when I was young, alcoholism and all these sorts of things, and then going through my DV with my ex where she called the cops on me, got me arrested, and I had to go prove to the police, prove to the courts, and prove to fucking everyone else that I was safe to be around my daughter. And I never wanted to talk about these things. I was ashamed of these things. I was so ashamed and embarrassed, and I repressed it inside of myself that it manifested as panic attacks because I had so much energy and animosity trying to release out of my body. When it comes to experiencing negative things that happen in our life that we don't have necessarily a map of understanding, a map of reference to be able to make sense of that thing that's happening, we get blindsided, and that's where things like PTSD, that's where depression, anxiety, and other things can happen. The best thing that you can do is to start voluntarily letting little bits out at a time to a level that you're comfortable with. You don't have to divulge all of your secrets to everyone always. It's not like you're not me. You don't have to be like me. I am like me because I have a platform that I'm trying to help men with. The more authenticity, vulnerability, and transparency that I can bring, the better it's going to be for all of you guys at scale so that you can ask me anything. Nothing is off the table when it comes to these Q&A sessions as well. You can ask very personal, specific things about me and what I would do, and I can give my best answer with that. So when it comes to the shame, when it comes to the repression, the repressed energy, feeling embarrassed, having tears and stuff like that, let that thing out, but very, very strategically. You want to make sure that you're choosing every little bit strategically with who you share, who is holding space for you, so that you can not feel judged, so that you can not feel like you're being criticized, or especially so not one person is trying to fix that problem. All you need to do to start off with is feel like you're heard. Feel that your words matter and your experience matters, because it absolutely does. And talking in a more general sense, if you guys can resonate with this story when it comes to sharing and authenticity and vulnerability and all these sorts of things, true courage, true strength comes from vulnerability. The more that I can, imagine I've got a big chest plate of armor on right now. That is covering my vital organs. In battle, if I was to show how brave I was and I wanted to face my opponent to say, look, this is me, I'm a human being, I would take my armor off and I would say, this is me, take me as I am, let's settle this man to man. Let's not hide behind facades, let's not hide behind masks and helmets and armor and all these sorts of things, and let's communicate man to man. Let's make sure that you see me and I see you. And that's one of the greatest things about community, especially men's communities, is where we can share within this space that it's almost a sacred safe space. And I fucking hate that term, safe space, but it's true. Everything that stays within inside of the container is sacred in nature and it doesn't get spoken about elsewhere, and no one is trying to fix it. No one is trying to fix it unless you say, hey, here's what's going on for me. Could I have some solutions? Could I have some different perspectives? Could I have some advice around it? So choose who you divulge this to. This is all of you men. Choose who you divulge it to. Choose someone that you trust, that you have a big rapport, that you know that will handle this with integrity. That's the big one. Handle it with compassion and integrity. And I'm here to do that for you guys. This space is here to do that for you guys. We've also got a Facebook group that's just launched. It's called, it's just the R.Y.S.E Movement group. I don't know what the actual name is anyway. But if you want to join like-minded men, jump inside of there and share conversations. Jump inside of there and say exactly what's going on for you. Not from a sense of poor me, victim mindset sort of thing, but as in an empowered, courageous strength perspective to say, hey, I'm voluntarily stepping into this. I want some space held around it, and then maybe we can work on some solutions together. When you reframe it and you, instead of focusing on how I'm victimized by whatever this thing is, and instead I'm courageous and I'm a survivor of this thing, now I can be vulnerable, transparent, authentic around it. That's where you truly hold power. When you can shine the light into your darkness and you can see the depths of hell that you've been through, voluntarily, you can integrate that. And that's where true healing comes from. And that's where I think we'll leave this Q&A session. It's a very heavy topic that we spoke about today. And if you have experienced something very similar and you want to be able to have a bit of question and answer or something like that, either submit it on Tuesday, like I said, or join the group. Links are below. Have an amazing day, men. Take care of yourselves. Be gentle with yourselves, but also hold yourself to a higher standard. Raise your standards everywhere. Take care. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for subscribing and leaving a review. It really helps us out. Until next time, take care and much love.